So, welcome to the Behind the Scenes podcast. I'm your host, Angel, and I want to introduce you to somebody very special. So, allow me to introduce you first before you say anything. I would like to introduce you
Wait, I want to say something. No,
Hey, allow me to introduce you to somebody who's been borderline a mentor for me. Somebody who I've learned so much from. Consistently, I've been able to call him, to text him, to ask him any questions about this industry, who's given me almost a guideline to follow as I've learned time and time again what to do and what not to do in this industry. Somebody whose work is unparalleled to anybody else that I've seen. He's been working with, do you mind if I throw out clients?
Yeah. I'm already amazed about everything I think I achieved.
Okay, so somebody who's been working with US Elite, somebody who's worked with Yahya Bakkar, who's worked with
Kettlebell Kitchen, Nike, Reebok,
so many other people that you've probably seen his work and you don't even know it. Abe Sharkas, thank you for being here, man.
You're welcome.
All right, so I just want to chat and just have a conversation that we would normally have, except there's cameras here.
I'll ignore it.
Yeah, pretty much. So, talk to me about what you've been up to.
The last time I saw you, I think we were working on certain projects together because we collaborate sometimes.
Right.
But since then, I've been focusing all my ducks on one client in particular. Yahya Bakkar is probably the biggest client. I wouldn't even say the biggest client, but the most workload that I would have to actually do because he's doing a video project a day.
Right, so that I think is awesome. So he decided to take on 365 days every single day.
We decided.
You guys decided.
We decided.
Okay,
That's behind the scenes, so you guys have to know. It's a joint project, joint effort.
Right.
But we both decided to do that, and there is a level of stress involved in that because you're producing a piece of content every single day, distributing that content every single day. And you have to get creative of what you're kind of putting out there. And it's tough. I mean, I do not know anybody else in the industry outside of somebody maybe like Gary Vee that's doing something like that.
Right. And so there's so many different, I think, things to tackle within that just project right there. So you have to think about, okay, do I batch this content? How do we come up with the concepts? What are we going to be talking about? With somebody like Yahya, he's a speaker. Am I going to be sitting in front of a white screen, or am I going to be traveling? Is this going to be a vlog? How do you tackle those issues?
So two ways. So if you're going to be working with a client that wants to do something like this, so somebody wants to do a 365-day video project, you essentially have two ways of doing it. One, it's either you're batching content, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this or ever would watch this would understand how to batch content.
Right.
If you don't, it's literally collecting as much footage as you possibly can in a short span of time, maybe a day or 3 days, so you can unleash it across the board for a month, 2 month, or 3 month period.
Right.
And the other factor is either remote filming, and then I would be either remote editing or vice versa.
Okay.
So the client is actually shooting videos on their phone or a specific kit that you assign to them to use. They would distribute the raw files to you, and then you would be in charge of editing and distribution depending on the.
That's interesting. So you're not always with them shooting consistently.
No. Yeah, because it would be impossible.
And you'd be like a salaried. You'd be like a salaried employee at that point.
Even if I was salaried, your bandwidth would die.
Right.
It'll be so much to handle.
Right.
And the level of capacity would eventually fizzle out. And we're creatives, so people who have creative energy. And I believe creative energy is gifted to people outside of us. It's just certain people have it, certain people don't. You can train it,
right?
But there's an essence in all of us. If you're a creator, that's inside you,
right? And that's something big. I think a lot of people don't quite grasp frequently, especially if you don't have that creative energy. You don't understand what it's like to either create or die.
People pay tons of money for programs on how to be more creative in 90 days, how to be more creative in 50 days or 60 days. Whatever these people are trying to push out online. And there's so many people pushing out BS products out online. In the last few months, I've been able to really see that. It's people that we view that seem to be established on the facade because they have a very good back-end team that's designing and branding it to make them look like a well-established leader in their industry.
Right.
But a lot of times it's not. It's not. It really isn't.
Right.
It really isn't. The beauty about something like this, and I was talking about this with somebody a few days ago, this specific podcast that Angel is doing, a lot of people only have the opportunity of seeing the person on the forefront. They do not see the team that allowed them to be on that pedestal.
Right.
They don't, right? Tai Lopez, I don't want to even use somebody that high. Forget it, we'll use it. Tai Lopez, the Grant Cardones, they do have a ton of knowledge, but what allows them to push them up that high is their back-end team. They're videographers.
Right.
They're people who are doing the whole content distribution. They're copywriters. They're photographers. It's not just I'm a subject matter expert, therefore the world's going to recognize me.
Right.
It's not. No.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
You're going to post a 15-minute video raw to their personal Facebook, and it's just going to launch. Right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's not it, right?
And I get clients, till this day, I get clients asking me, like, hey, we're going to get on, we're going to do podcasts. I want to start this podcast and webinar series, we're going to blow up. Like, no, dude, it doesn't work like that.
Right. And I think that's one of the main principles that I learned from you, that not everything is as easy as having the budget or just having the will to do it.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many other facets that go into it. Just being able to plan it and strategically understand whether or not you have the capability or the know-how to do it.
Yeah, and you have to know, before you step into whatever level of greatness you want to kind of step into, you have to know what you really want. People who are highly creative are usually highly distracted.
Right.
With distraction, usually sometimes comes opportunity, but a lot of times comes a negative. Flaky, airy, not knowing exactly what to focus on. And a creator, his sole purpose is to create.
Right.
And there's a lot of different ventures. You can go into video, cinematography, video stills. A photographer can go into photo, digitizing a photo, animating a photo. Somebody who does branding can do multiple variations of branding.
Right.
A graphic designer can go many different paths. What I've found these last 8 months to a year is just dialing in on one subject matter that can claim my expertise, which you claim anyway. That's determined by the creator. That's determined by the back-end entrepreneur.
Right.
It's their claim to fame of what they do, and the privilege and honor of saying no. A lot of people always want somebody to work with. They always want to say, hey, Angel, I need to have somebody to do this webinar and design this whole thing. Can you do that? I really want to work with you. I really want to work with you.
Right.
Having the balls to say no is more courageous than just saying yes 99% of the time.
Right.
Because you're going to fail doing that.
Right.
You have to be so selective, and you can't think about your bank account. You have to think about your bandwidth.
Interesting. See, one of the threads that I keep seeing pop up as I talk to more and more people is how to decide who to work with.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the first question that I asked Manny when he was on the podcast, and his answer was really interesting because it was about vibes, right? It was about how you connect with the person, and it was how do you kind of interweave your message with the message of the client. Is that something that you agree with?
Yeah, and something I always shared with you. Definitely with a few people I've worked with in the past, is there is a gut feeling, and there's a gut feeling and a gut sensation somebody has to have. But more so than that, you want to have the capability and ability to be transparent with the person you're working with. If you're working with a client where every time you get a phone call from them and your heart starts panicking before you even answer it, they're probably not an ideal client for you. But if you get a phone call from somebody, right, one of your clients, I'm so excited, you pick it up right away, like, yo man, I'm so pumped up for this new thing we're going to do, we're going to establish this, we're going to create this, we're going to do that.
Right.
So that level of excitement, that level of passion is emerging, and that's where you should focus all your time. Because at the end of the day, people that work behind the scenes are discovering or wanting to discover their purpose.
Right.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I hustling the way that I'm hustling? And why am I, burning the midnight oil the way it's been burning?
Right.
To understand your purpose is very, very simple, and that's one big thing that I've learned this past few months is working with one specific teacher, now that I have. By following your passion, your purpose emerges. We all have different passions. The next few months, maybe your passion is fully going into this podcast.
Right.
Maybe somebody who's watching this podcast, I want to just do cinematography and that's it. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to do photos. I just want to focus on cinematography.
Right.
Finding that lane they're so passionate about, purposes will emerge. Oh, now I have to be able to serve Nike.
Right.
Now Nike wants somebody like me to serve them. your purpose is coming out from the flame of your passion. That's so important. That question of what am I supposed to do is very, very often asked by people that are working in the back end of entrepreneurs. Because a lot of times you're going to get hit with hiccups.
Right.
You're going to get hit with an extreme amount of workload. Right.
And I feel like you get pulled into somebody else's vision often.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, and it will eventually suck you out of yours because you have to fully be able to service them.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that.
Right.
And a lot of people in our industry, they might be experts, let's say, at animation.
Right.
They're really, really good at animation, but when they're getting paid big bucks for working somebody else, they have to push aside their vision to fully fuel the person who's paying them.
And I feel like this is kind of the duality of being a creator, where you have to have half of your brain be a creator, and then you have to have half of your brain be a business person as well.
Yeah.
Where that's kind of always the duality I see when you're somebody who's kind of a creative, an artist. You know, you have to be able to split that in half, where it's like, what do I really want to do, and how do I make it happen?
Yeah.
Is that something that you've encountered yourself? How have you dealt with that?
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
You know, I've said it to you many times.
Yeah.
If you don't have established boundaries with your client will eventually, and it might not be by they're not purposely doing it, it might be accidental,
right.
But boundaries will be stepped over because the boundaries are never established. So when you're ever working with a specific client, you want to make sure, whether it's contractually, even if they're your great friend, you want to make sure boundaries are set up.
So talk to me a little bit about the process that you go through with the client in order to kind of set in place boundaries and to set in place the things that you need in order to have a successful client relationship as a creator.
2 ways. It comes with a couple meetings before I even sign them on.
Because that, not to interject, but that's kind of the thing that I also learned mostly as we would kind of go through these client meetings. There was a lot of work that you did on the front end to save yourself a lot of stress in the back end, and that was one of the most interesting things that I found that you don't really learn. You don't learn in art school, that's for sure.
Yeah,
you don't really learn those things until you do them. So can you talk to me like a little bit about it?
And I mean, just to add value to that, if you're working with somebody in the medical industry, as an example, you know, if somebody who's watching this is working with somebody in the medical industry, they're learning how to be an expert in the medical industry, where they're not learning how to be an expert in developing a business out of the knowledge that they have.
Right.
So, same as in art school, they're a great art student, they might be amazing at graphics and graphic design, but they do not know how to establish certain things with a client. It comes down to, I think, relationship skills 101. For me, I need to be able to be at a level where I meet this person not in their workplace, not talking about business, and really just getting to be able to connect with them as a person outside of the world of business. Because I know the lengthy process that it's going to take for me to understand who they are, and for me to capitalize that for them on film, because that's what they'll be paying me for.
Right.
Or if they're paying somebody who does branding, for that person who does branding to be able to capitalize and develop a brand out of their personality.
Interesting.
So people who are branding experts that don't take their client out to a cafe, that don't take their client out for like a fun night in the evening, that don't get a chance to meet their family, are never going to be able to develop a brand based around them.
Interesting.
They'll develop a brand based upon a fake thing that they want to represent, because everybody wants to be Ty Lopez.
Right.
Everybody wants to be Gary Vee.
Right.
I've gotten so many people asking me the dumbest question. I was about to curse. Oh man, I'm looking for a D-Rock. No, it's stupid.
The amount of time, yeah, I've heard that.
It's a stupid thing. No, you don't need that.
Right.
You need to establish the connection that you have with yourself.
Right.
Who are you? Right? As existential, and that's a very existential question.
Yeah.
Right? And we can go down a whole spiritual path of answering that, which I think is more important than the human understanding of it.
Right.
But these people who are the entrepreneurs that are hiring people to work their back end have to know who they are.
Right.
Before they even go out to find a branding expert, before they even go out to find somebody to say, hey, I need to shoot more content. What are you pitching?
Right.
What are you pitching? Why are we going to film content for you?
Right.
Why are we going to establish a whole thing on LinkedIn for you?
Right.
What's the point?
Right.
What do you have to offer? Because when people fall in love with you, because that's going to eventually happen, the more content you put out, the more podcasts somebody puts out.
Right.
It's not going to take a year. It could. It's not going to take 5 years. It could. It's not going to take 10 years. It may.
Right.
But eventually, at one point, maybe 2, 200, 2,000, 20,000 people are going to fall in love with you.
Right.
And once that level of love is established, entrepreneurs have to understand that, hey, what else do you have to offer so you can monetize this deal?
Right.
And most people that are looking for a D-Rock have not thought that far.
Right.
They just it's the ego emerging,
Right.
which is fine,
Right.
but as long as that's being recognized,
Right.
that, hey, I need to do this because that person's doing it and that person looks successful. Looks are very deceiving.
Right.
Anybody in our industry knows that, and I'm hoping more so clients see this than industry experts.
Right.
Because I think this is more important for our client to see.
Well, this will definitely be a snippet, just to let you guys know. I'm cutting this, making it a minute, but I totally agree. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in our industry, that everybody needs that vlog kind of lifestyle.
They don't.
Yeah, no.
Not everybody does.
Yeah.
There's people that do much better with written content. Bar none. It's just for some reason they're just so good and transparent. It's as if you do, for instance, graphic design,
Right.
so elegant, you might take a client up to level 20,
Right.
but then for some reason this client is just an expert at writing,
Right.
and you put it out, and that's level 1,000 or 2,000.
Right.
It's just that's how they're able to connect with the audience that they need to connect to.
Right.
Because they're learning to define who their target audience is.
And they're learning their voice, essentially. Everybody communicates differently.
Correct.
Everybody.
Not everybody needs YouTube.
Right.
Not everybody needs a podcast. Not everybody needs a webinar. Not everybody needs a website. Not everybody needs. There's so many things. You don't have to do everything. And a lot of clients forget that. If you are an entrepreneur who's making enough money to hire somebody to work with you as a team, or as a team member, or establish a team, you don't have to be on every single social platform to exceed the expectation. You don't.
That's against the grain advice.
You don't. People want to be like Nike or Reebok,
Right.
but Nike and Reebok have such a huge team of people that they're able to handle that workload. You're better at dialing in and understanding who your target market is.
Right.
So when they onboard somebody like you, onboard somebody like me to work with them,
Right.
we are able to kind of just heavy hit that one demographic and go all in on that for a well-established time to say it worked or it didn't.
Right. So I want to ask you this, because I feel like you're really good at this. How do you communicate something like that to a client?
Transparency. You can't, and this goes back to step 101.
I just want to paint a quick picture of how Abe communicates this to clients.
I'm harsh.
Yeah.
You know me, and a lot of people know that about me.
You walk in with an Arc'teryx t-shirt and a headband.
Oh, you remember
or
that?
something to a boardroom of people in suits, and you're just like, listen, you don't need a D-Rock. You don't need to be Gary Vee. These are the numbers. This is what you're making right now. You're not selling at all.
Yeah.
But you don't need a website to sell. Maybe
Yeah.
you need Instagram. Maybe, if that. I don't need to sell you on anything that you don't need. And then you give them the hard case facts.
Correct. I'm not in the industry, and I've said this to people in front of them. I don't want to blow smoke up somebody's ass.
Right.
If they want somebody, if they're hiring a team, or they're hiring, for instance, a creative consultant, because that's a better way to describe us now, because that's the new word.
Right.
A creative consultant. I'm the last person. I know a few of us like me. I'm not gonna put you on a pedestal and say, yes, sir, yes, master, yes, ma'am. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna no. It has to be a mutually understood thing between the creative consultant and the client that this is what is going to be established.
Right.
And that comes with understanding who they are as a person.
Right.
If you're working with somebody who as a person who wants everything, who's very flaky, who wants 1,000 things from you, doesn't have the capital to pay you, because it's going to take your time, you're going to be burning out. For sure. Any creative consultant that's watching this or that's listening to this, if you're taking on one client and you're distributing content across 10 plus platforms, and you're the only one doing it, dude, you're gonna be burnt out.
Right.
For $1,000, $2,000, $3,000.
That's what you were talking about before with bandwidth.
It's not. You have to protect it.
Yeah.
You have to protect your bandwidth. And if the client doesn't understand that's as if a client is paying you with a car that's empty and expecting you to go 200 miles an hour. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
The client's job, once the expectations are set, through that transparency, through that deep level of connection, right? Creating that friendship and that bond, that relationship with them, not just business, but a personal level.
Right.
That person, if they're a good client, is going to protect your bandwidth because they know your bandwidth is priceless.
That's so freaking relevant.
If the client doesn't understand that and they're burning you out, the client is doing you a disservice. And you should say no. And honestly, you might not want to take a pay cut, because a lot of people in our industry, once they nail their first 4, 5, 6 grand client a month, they're like, I have to keep it, I just have to suck it up. No, it's you're fine, you're good. You know, I know people who are working at McDonald's who are kicking it and having everything pretty much paid for. They figured it out. So you're fine. I'm not saying that people who are watching this are going to end up working at McDonald's. That's not the case. But even if you take a pay cut from one person, because you understand, you firmly believe deeply in your heart is so connected with your brain that saying this is not going to be a successful relationship in the long run, you have to say no and mutually understand that and mutually explain that. And if the person doesn't get it and the person doesn't understand it, do yourself a favor and back out. It's fine. Wow. You'll find another client. There's 100,000 clients out there that are looking for somebody who's watching this that has the offering that whoever's watching this has to offer. Wow. Because each of us are so unique. Even though I do videography, there's somebody who's 20,000 miles ahead of me at the level of a videographer. 100%.
Or maybe just a different style.
Yeah, true. And it's
different aesthetic.
Very relevant, correct. Now, each of us has a gift. So we're going all the way back to the beginning of this podcast. Where I believe this last year I really came to tune that something outside of us as human beings instilled a gift in us. And that gift, once the platform emerges, allows us to shine. So the platform you're working in right now, the clients that you have, they might just be burning you out and you might be taking a paycheck. But by you burning out, are you selling out? Or are you really delivering something you really want to do? Just because you own a business doesn't mean you're not selling out. And not everybody's entitled to own a business. And that's fine. That's okay. There's meant to be A-type people who are the CEOs. There's meant to be B-type people, which are high-level, white-collar business jobs. There's meant to be C-level people. And that's fine. You have to understand where you fit in, and that's with play. You're not going to get it by taking it seriously and saying, okay, this client is paying me $6,000 a month. I'm absolutely miserable. My relationship failed because I have all my time with this client. I have no time to spend with my family. I have no time to spend with people I love, and I'm getting burnt out. Is it really worth it? Is your life really worth that $6,000? Yeah, it might feel good because you think you're doing something you love, but is it with the person that you love and the people that you love? And creative people have to ask that.
I think that's something so hard for creative people in general because it requires decisions that would be, I guess, relevant to more business-minded people. Like business-minded people are usually the ones that have to make these pressing decisions consistently, high pressure, high stakes kind of stuff, whereas creatives are usually the ones that are more free and whimsical and stuff like that. So when you pair the two, and you're put in a content creator position, you're a business-minded creator, you're combining the pressures of both. And I think that's where we end up.
Knowing your value. And knowing your worth. I always joke and saying, like, if I put out a program, a 90-day bullshit program, because that's what a lot of these programs are. They're really they're bullshitted programs. They jump you in.
Comment the most BS program down
They
below.
jump you in on, like, I'm not going to knock it because there is value in a lot of these, but a lot of these, it's just an upsell. It's an upsell to something else. It's an upsell to something else. And I always joke saying that one thing that should be out there, if it's done really, really right, for people like us, people in our industry, is what is your worth and how to find your worth. Associated with a dollar amount. The biggest struggle that I see, and there's some people, I can't name drop because some of these people are really assumingly well established on Instagram. They're very well established, and on the facade, people in our industry will see them like, this person must be charging $100K a shoot. Right? $100K to do this, $100K to do that. No, dude, these people are charging $1,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Because they haven't understood their value in the creative space associated with a dollar, euro, or any international currency amount. And that is a big, big issue. Once you're able to clearly define that and you accept it. So my main goal in the last 2 or 3 years was to not fill out a job application again. I didn't want to go on any website, Craigslist, Indeed, all this stuff to fill it out. And in that span, there was moments usually at nighttime, when shit hit the fan and like certain clients dropped. I had to say no to certain clients and it just didn't work out. That I was like, okay, I have to take life seriously, man. I have high expectations. I want to get married. I have all these things I have to save up for, right? and I need income coming in. So I'd go on Indeed.com and I'd look up like social media videographer, like whatever keywords that I know that I think I am. And I'd see the jobs paying like $9 an hour, $8 an hour, and I'm like, you know, F this, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this to myself. And I just kind of bite the bullet and accept reality for what it is, taking that failure and just one foot at a time, move forward.
Right.
You know, we are in the instant gratification society nowadays, where a lot of us want to just have that instant gratification of having success and having attributes of success in our lives.
Right.
So for me, throwing that model into the garbage when I'm in those moments of despair and understanding that, hey, this is just a glitch and there's a learning experience out of this. I have to learn this. And the biggest learning lesson has been defining and clearly understanding my why. When I clearly understood my why and the level of service that I want to give to others, I'm good. Right. Even if failure comes, I know how to flip back and just attack it again day by day and establish strong connections. I'm lucky enough to never, I don't know if I told you this, but I never went to a networking event.
I knew that you were against them. I never knew you'd never been.
I never had a business card. That's something you knew.
Yeah, I knew that.
I've never had a business card. I've never been to a networking event. I've never been to a networking event at all. And I asked myself, how did I get my first clients? It's usually people that either came to me my way, some way, somehow.
Right.
Either maybe I was like at a cafe and I was working on my MacBook, or I was in the airport, you know, randomly traveling someplace, and people ask me what I do, and it's such a hard question for me to say. So I'm like, I'm a creative consultant.
Right.
You know, I help people who are struggling creatively increase sales in their business by assessing what they're doing wrong, by making it right, or figuring out the right. And you just see eyes light up because that's something a lot of people are looking for.
You stole my last question by answering that.
Oh, it's okay. We'll flip it, reverse it. But I never needed to give somebody this information. The most information I think I've ever given somebody is friend me on Facebook or let me get your phone number. Because I know if I give, and I hate business cards.
Right.
I hate them. I think they're stupid. For me in my industry, at least, because there must serve a value someplace. Maybe like at a medical practice, physical therapy office. I can see a value being attached to that with an older demographic. For me, if I get somebody's phone number, I have way much more access than me just taking their business card. I have a personal line of connection to somebody that if I have to reach out to them again and say, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee, let's hang out.
Because it's more personable.
100%.
Yeah. They actually, I feel like they're actually interested in meeting up as opposed to like, yeah, here, take this piece of paper.
And talking about, let's take 2 steps back, the casual dress that I wear. I'm very casual. If I go against somebody, and this has happened before, and I had this with a bigger client a while back there in Brooklyn, where 2 members of their team that they had on board, that they wanted to see if there would be a good fit, were wearing suits. I came in with flip-flops, and I was sweaty because I was walking like for a long time, but I didn't care.
Right.
I had no care in the world. I was extremely casual, and by me being there, I was extremely transparent with them, saying this is what I can deliver, and this is what I can't. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I say that so many times to clients.
Right.
I'm not here to, kiss ass and make you feel better and put you on a pedestal, because that's doing you a disservice, and I'm lying to myself.
Right.
And I don't want to operate at that, and I do not want to build a relationship out of that. So, in that scenario, I got booked, and those 2 people got dropped.
Wow.
And they were older than me. They were very well established. I had nothing. I didn't have a business card. I only had my iPhone. I had my iPhone and my laptop, and like 1 piece of camera equipment. That time, they were way more equipped than me. But the one thing that sold me was my transparency, my connection. Wow. That's it. That's it. It was a great relationship. A really, really good relationship. And now they grew they grew monstrous. So you have to work with bigger agencies that can really support that. But in the beginning stage, it was an amazing connection. It was an awesome connection. But I built it just through comfort, casual transparency.
Let me change the battery. Kind of to summarize everything, I usually like to ask everybody the same question. You kind of hinted at it, but I want to kind of just wrap up with it, just because it's what I usually want to do. Assuming that you are talking to somebody that's not in this industry, I feel like this is kind of something we all run into. Let's say you had to explain what you do to somebody who has no clue, and they're not business owners, they're not in this industry at all. How would you categorize what you do, or what would you say to them?
The first thing that I think of, it does depend on the person, the service industry I'm going after.
Say it's like a grandma, like somebody's grandma, and they don't.
I help people who struggle. I help people who are struggling with creativity.
Awesome.
That's it. Simple.
Very
if it's a grandma,
yes,
I help people who are struggling creatively.
awesome.
That's it. And then the next question is usually how, but that depends on each specific service industry.
Okay.
Somebody who needs assistant with branding, assistance with web design, assistance with graphic design. I go through different paths to make that happen for them. The biggest thing, which is my relationship with you, I love working with elite level freelancers.
Awesome.
Elite level people who are really great at what they do, because the best person in digital ads in the world is probably not working for an ads company. They're probably working for themselves.
Right.
The best graphic designer, there was one person you mentioned to me a while back.
Christo.
Yeah, he's probably working for himself.
Right.
Right? So the people who are the best in their industry don't need, some of them are fine working with other people, but majority of them that I had the opportunity of meeting this past 2 years are individuals who work for themselves because they have established such a good package deal
Right.
and such a great reputation that they do not need the support, the endorsement of a higher end company or agency
Right.
to endorse their efforts.
Right.
Their efforts speak for themselves.
It's interesting.
You know, but they put in the work.
Right.
They really, really put in the work, and I've probably worked in agencies. If somebody here has worked in an agency before,
Right.
the amount of struggle that has to go into working that.
Right.
And you're getting burnt.
Oh yeah.
It's a great learning experience.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah. You're a mule essentially.
You're worse than a mule.
Yeah.
You're whatever's worse than a mule, you are that.
The pay is good, but you're there from sun up to sundown.
Pay is not even good. It's not even worth it.
Yeah. I
You're-
mean,
a lot of
compared
these people-
to what the possibilities are,
Probably.
but
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, where can we find you?
Instagram. I don't have a business card. So go on Instagram. You can just look up Abe Sharkas. Even on Facebook. That's the easiest way to find me. If somebody ever wants to work with me, you know how selective I am.
Yeah.
So Angel knows how selective I am. I'm extremely selective in working with clients. And even sending clients to specific people, I'm very selective with too.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how you'd find me. If somebody has a question, that's the easiest way to ask me. What do I do if they're struggling with creatively and they don't know where their business can go, or they can't envision where their business can be? That's the type of person that they would want to have.
Awesome.
They want somebody like me.
Is there anything you want to say? Anything
Thank
you
you.
want to say to
This
the
is important.
camera?
I think everybody who's in our industry, that is either a consultant, videographer, freelancer, whatever label that you want to attach to who you think you are, because you're more than that. You're a human being first. These are just some things that we have to offer in
Right.
life. This is such an important thing to watch, and it's good that you're showing the backing, because everybody we see, there's 1,000,001 podcasts vetting people like Grant Cardone, vetting people like Ty Lopez, vetting people like Gary Vaynerchuk,
Right.
and it's stupid unnecessary. There is nothing out there as a resource supporting the people who are supporting them. And by people watching this, you're seeing an in-depth look on creators, how they charge, how they get clients. The information that you'd think is 101 is not. It's like level 7,102.
Right.
Like it's a crazy level of understanding, and it takes time to get to that level.
Right.
But this is an extremely important subject matter and a back-end look in our industry.
Hell yeah.
And it's important, and you know that.
Oh, big
I
time.
wish I had something like this when I first started.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. You'd have to pay a program how to be a videographer in 90 days
Right.
or less, or your money back, which doesn't exist. But yeah,
How
anyway.
to close clients.
How to close clients in 90 days
Yeah.
doesn't. It's all bullshit. So that's it, man. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
All right, man.
How'd you feel?
Oh, amazing.
How are you, Angel?